Hi everyone, welcome to my channel Real Time Economics. On this channel, we go beyond the news headlines and dig through the layers of each story to uncover the economic theories behind them. So, whether you're aiming to build a bank of relevant, up to date examples to give you an edge in IB or Cambridge exams, or simply trying to understand the world through the lens of economics, this channel is for you. In today's video, we are going to study the LPG crisis in India. In the first part of the video, we'll focus on the knowledge section, where we do a deep dive into the LPG energy crisis in India and the measures taken by the government to curtail it. Then, in the second part, we'll move on to application, where we'll connect the news articles to the key economic theories and see how these concepts play out in the real world. Let's get started. The war has turned the world into a global battlefield. The current crisis is demonstrating in real time that energy infrastructure is part of that battle space. It has ripped off the economies of oil dependent countries and left them scrambling for alternative supply chains and fuel solutions. But the strategic answer lies in not just finding another supplier, but to think bigger and create energy hubs, to be self reliant and ensure long term economic stability. Let us now explore the various indigenous, cleaner alternatives for cooking and power generation to enhance energy security. But before we deep dive into the cleaner fuel alternatives, let me give you a quick primer on the energy crisis in India. We will be focusing on four key flashpoints in our analysis: firewood and LPG, India's energy imports, government measures, and alternative fuels. India is facing a liquefied petroleum gas shortage due to the ongoing crisis in West Asia, which began with US and Israeli strikes against Iran on 28 Feb 2026. The conflict in the region has effectively closed the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow choke point between Iran, Oman, and the UAE, through which 40 to 50% of Indian crude oil imports, 50 to 60% of country's LNG, 80 to 85% of its LPG import shipments pass through. This is an article from Economic Times wherein the government of India is looking at another solution to reduce the current energy burden: blending dimethyl ether, a clean burning fuel that can function as a substitute for LPG. The dimethyl ether has been adopted in several countries, particularly China, where large scale production and application demonstrate its practicality. One of the most significant advantage of dimethyl ether is its compatibility with the existing LPG infrastructure. According to the Bureau of Indian Standards, DME can be safely blended with LPG up to 20%, allowing it to be used across sectors without requiring major changes to the current system. This article in Business Line dated 24th March, AIDA, All India Distillers Association, has suggested the use of ethanol for domestic and industrial cooking by introducing ethanol burners and exploring ethanol blending in diesel to contain the costs. Further, the introduction and promotion of ethanol-based stoves can complement the clean cooking option for households, particularly in semi-urban and the rural areas. Another alternate option is compressed biogas. It is produced from agricultural residue, cattle dung, and municipal waste. Therefore, compressed biogas offers a compelling combination of energy security as well as environmental benefits. It generates organic fertilizer as a byproduct and creates additional income streams for farmers, effectively transforming waste into value. The larger conclusion is clear. The 2022 Ukraine war taught the world to diversify suppliers. The 2026 Iran shock is teaching it to diversify routes, reinforce infrastructure, and build indigenous resilient energy hubs. Now let's move on to the second part of the video, where we will analyze the above three news articles using various economic theories. So we are going to analyze the multi-fuel approach to energy security by using various economic theories. The first is the supply shock and the cost push inflation. We know that the energy prices are rising and also there is reduced availability of natural gas. Both these factors will have a cascading effect on inflation. This inflation is cost push inflation because it is going to increase the cost of production for the industries. Let us show this on the graph. Originally we have short-run aggregate supply curve 1. As the oil prices and natural gas prices increase, it is going to increase the cost of production for the firms, which will lead to a leftward or upward shift of the short-run aggregate supply curve. This is short-run aggregate supply 2. Notice that because of this leftward shift, the new equilibrium is at this point, E1. This was your original equilibrium. At this E1, we have lower output and we have a higher price leading to inflation. The next theory is substitutes and cross elasticity of demand. As we know that the new alternative fuels, compressed biogas, dimethyl ether, green hydrogen, ethanol, these are all substitutes for LPG. If the LPG prices increase, what will happen? The demand for substitutes is also going to increase. If we have to show this on the diagram, this is our y-axis and this is our x-axis. So here we have price of LPG, and on the x-axis we have the quantity demanded of substitutes, that is the cleaner fuels. So as the price of LPG increases, the quantity of demanded for the substitutes such as CBG, DME, green hydrogen will also keep increasing. Hence we get a positively sloping demand curve. So this implies that there is positive cross elasticity of demand, and the closer the substitute, the higher the price elasticity of demand. Next we move on to energy security and import substitution. Since India depends heavily on imported fuel, if the country adopts alternative fuels, this will lead to import substitution industrialization. Replace imports with domestic alternatives, and the impact is improved balance of payments, since our imports will greatly reduce, and it will also reduce our vulnerability to the global shocks. What will happen to the production possibility curve? Well, if we use the alternative resources which are indigenous, it will lead to efficient utilization of the resources which are otherwise lying idle. For example, agricultural waste, solar energy. This can be put to efficient use. Hence, the economy moves closer to the PPC and the resources are better and efficiently allocated. If the economy is operating at point A, it will be able to move towards a point which is more efficient, because we can produce a higher combination of the two goods at point B. Next is positive externalities of production. We have learnt that compressed biogas and ethanol, they reduce the stubble burning, they reduce pollution, they generate organic fertilizer. All this will create positive externalities of production, wherein the social benefit is greater than the private benefit. In such cases, we see that the market normally underproduces, and the government has to intervene to provide subsidies to the producers to give them an incentive to produce more. So this is the graph for positive externalities of production. This is the optimal level where marginal social benefit is equal to marginal social cost, where we should ideally be producing, but because we are not aware of the positive externalities of production, we end up producing at this point which is below the optimum. Hence we say there is underproduction and the government subsidies are required. Next we move on to reduction in the negative externalities of consumption. Next is reduction in negative externalities of consumption. We know that traditional fuels cause air pollution and emissions, so switching to the alternate fuels which are cleaner, it will help reduce negative consumption externalities, which will further improve social welfare and reduce the healthcare costs. This is the diagram. You can see that this is the welfare loss because of overconsumption of traditional fuels. If we switch to cleaner fuels, we will be able to reduce these externalities and move towards the socially optimum level. The supply side policies, the government initiatives like setting up 5,000 compressed biogas plants will lead to increase in the productive capacity of the economy, which can then be shown as a shift in the long run aggregate supply, or even as a rightward shift of PPC. Let us now look at the advantages and limitations of using the alternative cleaner fuels. Firstly, it is going to reduce our import dependence on the outside world. It will help in bringing about environmental sustainability. These fuels, especially the compressed biogas, is produced from agricultural waste, cattle dung, and municipal waste. And it also releases organic fertilizers as a byproduct. This becomes an additional source of income for the rural farmers. Energy diversification will also lead to economic stability. We are seeing how this economic stability is getting dampened because of the supply shocks, the oil supply shocks we are facing. So, to ensure better economic growth and stability in our country, it is important that we are self reliant in terms of energy needs. Limitations include the infrastructure gaps. We do not yet have the proper infrastructure required for producing these cleaner alternative fuels. High initial costs will be a burden on the government. The technological uncertainty related to using hydrogen as a cleaner fuel. High domestic and export prices of sugar. Basically, ethanol is produced from sugarcane. If sugarcane is diverted towards producing cleaner fuels, this will definitely lead to an increase in the domestic prices of sugar. So the article illustrates how a negatively global supply shock leads to a shift towards a diversified energy mix driven by the need to correct market failures, improve energy security, and enhance long-run productive capacity, though constrained by scaling challenges and transition costs. Thank you for watching.